Welcome everyone to the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was fun while it lasted, but it's over now. What did you think?
My honest opinion?
Pretty good.
Liked it.
Looking at the reviews online, I looked at like all of the Rotten Tomatoes certified fresh, pretty good. Coming out of the movie, I was like, it's fine. I didn't hate my time. It was pretty enjoyable, but I had a weird tinge of like, wasn't what I wanted.
I don't know. I feel like I need to separate this energy out because
Sure.
Other people have told me that they couldn't read me before.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I the whole movie, I had a big old dumb grin on my face. I liked it.
Sure.
I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to like separate myself from you and saying that when I say it was pretty good, it was pretty good. I would spend the money again.
Cameron does not endorse anything that I say. I get where you're coming from. I totally understand. It's not a bad movie, and I'm not saying that. Even though there are some reviews that are like, it was a bad movie, but I enjoyed myself, which is a weird, like, frankly, if that resonated with you, going to see a movie and you're like, you know what, that wasn't cinema, but I actually enjoyed my time.
I feel like that's how people think about Speed Racer.
I mean, but that one's like,
well, they're not smart enough. You see, the average person doesn't have a high enough IQ to like the Speed Racer 2008 Wachowski movie.
And similarly with this movie, one review that I saw, which was from Moist Critical, Penguin Z0, he said that this was his least favorite Deadpool movie, but he enjoyed it. And I would agree, frankly, that this was not. I didn't enjoy this as much as the other two Deadpool movies, but it was very enjoyable, which is weird. That's why I just feel weird about it.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
And what I interpreted was that Penguin Zero likes my son more than he likes the Deadpool 3 movie. For anyone who doesn't know, Keon went to see Penguin Zero like the day my child was born.
Yes.
He has a video. I'm never sharing this. No one will ever find out who my kid is or any of that
I
stuff.
don't know if there's a video.
It is a video. I have the video.
Oh, crap,
on my
really?
phone that you sent me. I saved it. I'll cherish it forever. I'll show it to him. If he ever feels bad about himself, I will literally go to him and be like, hey, Penguin Zero thinks you're pretty cool.
Yeah.
And now I can tell him Penguin Zero thinks you're better than Deadpool 3.
He did, Moist Critical did a live thing in Tampa, and he doesn't usually do like live stuff too often. So I was like, oh, I'll go see that. And it was for his esports team that were in like the national championships or something for Apex. And so it was like in a theater, and like there were everybody
jazzed to see it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was actually like a really cool event. And so there was a lot of Q&A of people just riffing. And so my first question was, hey, give me a ranked Sonic tier list. I want to hear what you think of the Sonic characters. And literally all of them deadpan were like, I don't care about Sonic very much. I'm like, what are we doing here? Can you yes and me? And they're like, let's send it over to Chase, I think was his name.
Moist Critical likes my son more than Sonic the Hedgehog?
He has at least an opinion. You're right, yes.
That's incredible.
But yeah, fast forward to, I had bought tickets for my girlfriend Jessica and I, and then you and your wife to all come and hang out. And hilariously, I was sitting there like, wow, this is such a great event. Jessica and I are having a great time. Hey, Cameron, Sam, where are you? They're like, we're at the hospital. I'm like,
No,
I was asking Penguin Zero,
just
like,
for context, we did like, oh, we're gonna go see Penguin Zero during the due date for my child.
Yes,
this was like a month before.
Yeah, no, he just really wanted it.
And also,
like, I
the
want to join
baby is
y'all.
rock solid. He basically just appeared a month early. It was like,
Yeah.
what's good?
He's like, I'm chill.
Like even the doctors were like, I don't understand. This kid is completely fine.
Yeah, and it was a month before the due date, but he's great.
Wild card
boy.
Cameron Jeans.
So yeah, Deadpool, going back to that, it was good. It was enjoyable. It was fun. There were stuff in the movie that I frankly didn't know what I was expecting. Like going into the movie, I was like, I think I'm going to enjoy this, but I wasn't really like making too much of a prediction of what was going to happen. I deliberately avoided every single trailer, had no idea what was going to happen, except for a couple leaked photos that I saw, which is probably the worst thing compared to a trailer. And it didn't spoil anything, but I was like, oh, okay, I could see what this might be, but definitely did not have any frame of reference about how completely off the rails kind of from the get-go.
Yeah, I really want us to get into spoiler territory because this is the kind of problem with this movie where it's like the person watching I don't know what qualifies as a spoiler for you. From the overall story, I know it's a spoiler, but there's just chock-a-block cameos and references, and it's incredible and weird.
Yeah, it's surprisingly very similar to a lot of other Marvel movies.
No. It is exactly like
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home. It is exactly like it in terms of how off the rails it gets, the kind of level of cameo, what the meta cameo, like the meta narrative around the cameo is, it's all there. And it's also supposed to be a button on other franchises.
Well, funny enough, I think that this is the end of their Multiverse Trilogy, because they started with No Way Home, then they had Multiverse of Madness, and now they have this movie. And from the trailers, now that I've actually looked at the trailers, they tell you, I'm Marvel Jesus.
I didn't even think about that. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah, and the TVA is like in the trailer. So we're not really trying to spoil any of that. There is a lot of like looking around, as well as that was the end of the last movie. End of the last movie was him going through his history. Yeah.
Doing his own meta time travel multiverse joke.
Yeah, and killing himself before he could do the Green Lantern
of
movie.
The Ryan verse.
Yeah. So this movie had a lot of that energy of like, we're going to a bunch of different places. This is for the fans, but in a fun way that you just need to go into it with what energy it does have. Now, the weird thing that a lot of people are talking about online, which I agree with, is that the first Deadpool movie was so refreshing just because it took that Marvel like quippy dialogue and really made it like, okay, well, I'm just going to start like ad-libbing some small things in here. It'll genuinely be funny and fun just because it's someone roasting the movie as it goes, or roasting what's happening as it goes. The term in writing is lampshading. If something happens, they'll put a huge lampshade on it. It's like, wow, that's foreshadowing. It's a narrative device. Did you know that? Like stuff like that. But the thing that's happened since the first Deadpool movie, since the second Deadpool movie, is that Ryan Reynolds has been in a lot of other stuff. And
he's also become just his own brand in a way that we haven't seen. Like, his brand transcends the like Arnold Schwarzenegger as an action hero brand. He literally can't be in a freaking movie now without being an ad for aviation vodka gin.
Yeah, aviation gin. The Rock does that too, as well as Hugh Jackman has his coffee brand. It's his brand. His brand is this quippy dialogue. Free Guy, The Adam Project, all of the other movies that not only he's directed or been a big part of, but have just cameoed in. I think it's like Red something.
Was it Red Notice or just Red?
It might have been Red Notice. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, all of those, he plays the same character, it feels. And that was the thing. Deadpool, it felt like, oh no, that's who Deadpool is. Deadpool does this. But now seeing Ryan Reynolds be like, no, but I already did that. That's why it was great casting. I'm like, I agree. But now Deadpool's everywhere. Like that same thing has transcended the series. So by now, the one critique of the movie I heard, which I really agree with, is that this movie is wall to wall with jokes. Like I'm not kidding. There's like
jokes within jokes.
Yes, like a lot, and it's commendable. But 1 in 10 were like very good. The other ones were like, I guess you said a thing.
I will,
in my opinion.
I really want to get into spoiler territory because there's a few things that like they did them. I was like, yeah, your like jokes per minute is kind of high, and yet somehow the average joke is above average.
I agree. I do agree. There are some really standout jokes, and I'm like, that's one of the funniest things I've heard all year in a movie. But there's a lot of stuff there. It's like we're throwing spaghetti on the wall, and the spaghetti that sticks is like Michelin star, but the other ones are like gray and gross.
And I love eating my Michelin star spaghetti off the wall.
Exactly. So quick trivia before we get into it. Sean Levy, who is the director for this movie, he also did The Adam Project. He also did Free Guy. So no wonder it's very similar to those movies in a way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he also did Real Steel. The Sock'em...
That movie kicked ass. That was an underrated movie. I don't care what people have to say about that.
Sock'em Robots movie. And it was pretty good. And it had Hugh Jackman in it.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a fun little piece of trivia that he's just kind of like been amassing this. As well as Hugh Jackman apparently had a couple cameos in Free Guy and Adam Project. I don't think he had one in Adam Project.
I don't think he had one in Adam Project, but
yeah. But I think
he did one in Free Guy.
I didn't see Free Guy.
Free Guy was great.
It was
honestly, of all of the like side projects he's done so far, Free Guy was probably the best one. Except there's like a moment near the end where it gets kind of like way too meta cameo-y. But up until then, like here's the thing. I freaking hate the story where it's like, oh, look, these little computer people are all actual people, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. This is actually like someone gives a shit about machine learning who is writing the script. It is extremely well done. They even have the like, oh gosh, you see it all the time when people are trying to show you, they're like, these are my, like all the Tinder swipes right. And then these are the days. Like it basically is a logic graph that they use in certain machine learning projects to show how the model was trained, and they show you like giant ones for the different characters. And it's actually very well done.
You should do a Wild Good Cameron on that.
I'm not going to. I refuse.
For me, please.
I'll record an episode about Free Guy with you, and you can put it on my channel. How's that?
Yeah, why not?
The first video in like years.
Yeah, great.
Okay, back to Deadpool though.
The thing about that and about how like this sense of comedy has kind of gone through everything is just you either really like it or you think it's fine. I don't think it's bad. I don't think anybody thinks that it's bad. But for Free Guy especially, the only thing I saw that came out of it is the one shot of there being a lightsaber, and then they cut to everyone's reaction. It's like,
that's a lightsaber, dude.
And I'm like, okay.
At some point, he literally blocks like the dude's punch. The guy's name is Dude, by the way. The other guy, there's Guy, and then there's Dude, who's like the fake. It's the whole thing. But I know it doesn't seem like it should be good, but it still works really well.
The guy's name is Speed Racer, and one of my favorite movies. I hopefully should be able to get over that.
The point is, he blocks the punch with Captain America's shield,
yes,
and Chris Evans literally just yells at the camera.
What the shit?
Oh, that's what that's from.
Yeah, that's from Free Guy.
Okay. Considering that now, the whole point of this whole craziness that they're joining the MCU, Deadpool, it's in all the trailers. It's the whole thing. And Ryan Reynolds was like really trying to be kind of a dick about like, oh, what is that going to mean? He did not want anything to leak because of course there's a lot that happens. There's also a big no spoilers campaign. But the big one was that he said he's just like, don't worry guys, here's a sneak peek. You know who's going to be in it? Mickey Mouse and the Predator and Steve Urkel. And so he was just taking the piss. He's like, I'm not going to tell you who's
My favorite scene is when the Predator and Steve Urkel join forces.
They like do the arm lock.
Yeah, they do the arm lock.
Flex.
Steve Urkel's did I do that? And it was amazing. And he turns into Jaleel White. It's incredible.
And then he high fives Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer sets off a nuke. And he's just like, did I do that?
Yeah, because now I've become Disney, the destroyer franchise.
Other big thing that came out from this whole movie is the popcorn bucket. You can't just let us have our Dune popcorn bucket. You had to make your own. And had to lampshade it.
They're so weird because there's also like a bunch of fake popcorn buckets people kept like posting.
No, they're not fake. It depends.
They were all real. Like I've seen like 12 different designs.
And that's the problem. A lot of them are spoilers. And I was very mad. Not only are we spoiling movies and trailers anymore, but as you saw before with wherever it is, the Marvels had a spoiler bucket that we had. There are popcorn buckets.
Time out. They've had spoilers in Fortnite. I don't think the popcorn buckets are edging out where the weirdest spoilers are coming from nowadays.
It was just weird. I don't know what to do with the fact that like, I was looking around for it too. That there are now popcorn buckets that are spoilers. They're not even like teasers of like, this is going to especially with the Marvels. It's like, that literally was a plot point. Why did you do that? Go watch our Marvels video if you want to know about that. But the Wolverine mouth one, which by the way sold out on Thursday night, opening night, when I went to go see the movie. I saw it at 10 o'clock and they had sold out of everything.
A lot of fetishists enjoying that bucket.
Literally, it was the entire inventory they had were gone. And apparently there have been several videos about this, about that's the new meta for movie theaters, is just popcorn buckets.
I mean, they got you to buy a Barbie sports car with a Barbie, so
I'm telling you it works.
Yeah.
Like, it will work.
No, I'm saying that we can confirm as we've done our own user research on this.
Yeah, I think that's called a cross sale, when you're buying something and then there's just something at the register that you're like, I'll pick that up. You already charged me $200 for popcorn. Yeah, I might as well pick up a $60 Barbie. But other chains besides AMC, because AMC is the one that had the Wolverine mouth one. Other chains have their own popcorn buckets, which are other characters from the movie. And so that's the thing, is that those had some pseudo spoilers, as well as AMC did also have one that was a pseudo spoiler.
That Wolverine was in it?
Yeah, Wolverine's in the movie.
He is?
You caught me, yeah.
I wonder if he's played by a huge jacked man.
He was a huge jacked man, yes. It's so nice to see him. A couple of other things. So this movie was delayed a bit because during Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, there was like a 2-year gap. So everybody's like, okay, cool. When's Deadpool 3 going to come out? And then Disney bought 20th Century Fox, which owned the rights to X-Men. And so Deadpool is part of that package. And so there was actually going to be an X-Force movie. And presumably Deadpool was going to be a part of that, but they had to can it because of this whole thing. So a lot of stuff surrounding this movie had to be canned because it got switched over to Disney. Two major things. One, Deadpool 3 wasn't really going to happen unless Hugh Jackman signed on as Wolverine. Literally, the writers were sitting there and they were like, I don't know what we do if we don't get Hugh Jackman. And so apparently there was a 7-year-long campaign. I think I read that Ryan Reynolds just kept asking Hugh Jackman. He's like, please, could you please?
How am I going to sell my gin if I don't have Wolverine there to drink it?
Exactly. Which they didn't. Did you notice that? Aviation Gin wasn't anywhere there except for...
I wasn't looking particularly hard.
I was paying a lot of attention to a lot of the brands that they had
Okay.
on, but Aviation Gin was only sold like in theater if you got a cocktail at the bar.
I would argue that makes more money than an Aviation Gin ad in a movie.
Which is fair. I mean, his entire brand is all over this movie, as well as certain cameos, we'll get into later. But the crazy thing is the fact that, yeah, there was a lot that they wanted to do with Deadpool 3 as soon as they got Hugh Jackman on board. The big one, which hopefully won't be a spoiler because I think it's apparent this isn't what the movie was going to be, was going to be a road trip style movie with Wolverine in which they save Christmas.
That's awesome.
I would have loved to see that.
I hope they still make it as like a Christmas special. Disney loves making terrible, weird,
like a
nonsense
cartoon
crap.
one.
No, like for like they did they'll do like really good stuff, or they'll do like Werewolf by Night, and you'll just have like 40 minutes of like surprisingly good cinema.
Mm-hmm. And another cameo that was going to happen but didn't happen was Jordan Peele. I don't know why, but I read that Ryan Reynolds
shows up and he says nope one time, and then he says us. And then he turns to them. He's like, "Now get out."
That's pretty good. Which I don't know how much that would have added to anything, but the movie is
For
just
real?
stuff all the time.
This movie feels like any chunk of budget that didn't go directly to CGI went directly to actors.
Yeah,
because
seriously.
theirs is chock-a-block full of actors.
Spoiler time.
Da-na-na-na-na-na.
So I think that's all for the trivia, and any other piece of trivia I have has to relate to all of the crazy spoilers that happen. And this movie felt a lot like Endgame in a way where you can't really get into the plot without spoiling.
Yeah, I also liked how Deadpool jumped into Thanos' butt.
He did jump into Thanos'
explode Thanos from the inside. There is a giant Ant-Man suit, so you have no reason to believe I'm lying.
Yeah, fuck it. So, so yes, there is a lot in this movie when it comes to Easter eggs and cameos and stuff like that. So we got to just get into it in spoilers.
Yeah.
So the first one that I wanted to mention is not really a huge spoiler, but it's the fact that what this movie felt like, and it basically was a, like we mentioned before, like all of the other movies that have kind of tackled this, like No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness, were a send-off, were like a love letter to whatever that was in a way. Especially No Way Home. It was like, here's a love letter to all of the Spider-Men.
Yeah.
We love them. They're great. This was a love letter, and it was very obvious by the end, to 20th Century Fox's X-Men universe.
Oh, yeah. But no, it wasn't just that. It was, here's the thing I don't think people fully appreciate. Because, okay, so they have the X-Men.
Yes.
Absolutely. And they have the original actors from those movies. It was amazing.
Yeah.
They got back Toad and Pyro and all those idiots. Yeah. It was fantastic. For anyone who hasn't seen, they had Blade, they had Elektra. I don't know if that Channing Tatum freaking Gambit is legit or not.
Did you not know about that?
I never heard that was like a thing they ever wanted to do. That's amazing. It's such good. He did such a good job.
He was great.
That was when he walked. I was like, I was having a good time, and then he walked on screen, and I was having a great time.
Yes. Oh my god.
He was so perfect. It was perfect casting.
Yeah.
The accent was hilarious.
Yeah,
he
the
did
Creole
such a
accent.
good job, and especially because we just watched X-Men 97, which Gambit is such a good part of it, and it's so good.
Weird synergy there. Yeah, that it was like, oh, I would love to have seen Gambit on screen outside of X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Where they didn't even show us a good Gambit.
Yeah, but that was a thing. Channing Tatum had come out, said that he was going to play Gambit in a spin-off movie. It never happened. And so that's why he said, he's like, I don't even know how long I've been in the void. And he's like, some of us feel like we're born here. And it's like, yeah, dude.
But that's the thing, is all of those references, all of those characters were the foundation. Like, they led to the X-Men movies, which then led to the Spider-Man movies. Although I think they happened more or less around the same time. I don't remember which came first.
So X-Men started in 2000.
Yeah.
That was the first movie.
When did Spider-Man start?
2001.
Okay.
Yeah.
The point is, this is like Blade was like the first time someone was like, oh, we can make comic movies that make money.
Yeah.
And then you get your like Daredevil and Elektra and stuff. Then you get your X-Men and you're getting your I was just talking the movies I mentioned.
Yeah.
And that leads into like eventually in 2008 the MCU's a thing now.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the thing is like, I feel like this wasn't just a love letter to that. This was a love letter to the very forgotten pieces of media that allowed the MCU to come about.
The MCU is the house that 20th Century Fox built, really.
Yes.
You know, like they laid the foundation for people to have the interest, and then Iron Man just hit it out of the park.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is that two people were a part of the 20th Century Fox universe that are now over, which is Ryan Reynolds. He wasn't he in Blade?
He was in Blade.
Yeah.
He was in Blade. He has a snarky role in the third movie.
And then the other one is Jon Favreau.
Oh, yeah. He was in Daredevil.
Yes, he was Buddy, I think was the name of the character. Yeah.
He plays the he plays
Foggy.
Daredevil.
Foggy was his name. Yeah.
He plays Daredevil's
Like best friend.
best friend / co-attorney buddy.
And the reason why this is very important is because Kevin Feige and Jon Favreau have mentioned that the beginnings of their love for comic book movies was on Daredevil, because Kevin Feige was he was either like a writer or something, but he was on set. And they literally were just like, well, what should we do next? We could do this. And literally Kevin Feige was sitting in the corner going through a comic book being like, how about we do this from the comic book? And they're like, shut up. I don't care. And literally like Jon Favreau was like, why don't we do what Kevin said?
Yeah.
Like he said this in interviews. So it's so crazy to see them now at the like tippy top of like the biggest franchises at Disney, now partnering together and being in part of this big send off to that era.
No, but think about how that comes through in the climax. So we see Wolverine wearing the Wolverine costume from the comics. That's the first time we have seen a comic accurate Wolverine.
Yep.
And that is like the button on Kevin and John's entire journey from we should do it like the comic to we did it like the comic.
It was literally during, I think it was Like a Prayer was the song. And then he says like, and it'll feel like home. And literally on the word home, he puts the cowl up. I was like, oh, it was so good. But yeah, this was like the big button on that entire franchise. And it's so funny because a lot of parody is good at this, where if you literally take out the fact that there is a plot here, right? And the plot at the end of the day is the fact that like there's the Marvel Cinematic Universe and that Deadpool wants to be a part of it, but then he realizes that his universe is going to die because Wolverine in his universe died, which was Logan. And so he's like, oh, well, now my universe is going to die and it would take thousands of years to happen, but now it's going to happen immediately because someone wants to destroy it immediately because they want to get rid of the clutter. You know what's funny about that? That sounds exactly like why they're getting rid of all the 20th Century Fox characters for the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
So if you look at this movie as a lampshade around the literal thing that's happening, it all makes sense. Literally every single part of it.
It's not even subtle. They literally call it the sacred timeline. It's literally just the MCU. That's the entire, they don't even, I don't think they lampshade. I think you could have seen this exact conversation happening with like a board of directors at Disney using the exact same words. And it would not have felt out of place because it's so obviously them saying, this is all the crap that doesn't fit. And now we have to get rid of it, or we have to figure out how we're going to fold it in. And we even have created properties just for that purpose.
But the dialogue, like if you listen to the plot, like the way that they describe the plot, because the entire time I was watching the movie, I'm like, this seems really messy. Like, what the fuck is going on? But when you put on that like coding of like, this is all just a thinly veiled allegory for what's happening literally to the business, it makes way more sense and has more cohesion because it just feels like frankly, a big weird boardroom meeting if you think about it.
This is what I wanted to talk about earlier, but I didn't want to say it before we got into spoilers. This movie sits in an uncanny valley between being so messy that you can kind of ignore the references and just clean enough that the references are supposed to mean something. Like in Spider-Man No Way Home, there's like a 5-second gap where Andrew Garfield walks on screen, applause break. It's freaking funny on rewatch. Like the way that Elektra and then Blade and then Gambit walk on screen, that feel like they are parodying that moment. Sam did a great job of pointing this out to me. I want to give her credit for this. I feel like, I hope it's funnier on rewatch, seeing all those little moments where they're like, this is the stupid thing that Disney did for their thing, and we're gonna make fun of it while doing it for our thing.
Yes, yeah.
And I feel like I want that to happen on the replay, but at the same time, they're also saying like, this was something we liked. This happened, so this movie could happen eventually.
And frankly, what I wanted, because the beginning of the movie kind of like, and it starts in like a what's even happening, where are we going, like what is this world that we've kind of, Deadpool has had a plot line, so where did that plot line go? And frankly, it kind of went to shit. Like they started off with like him having a sales job, and you're like, well, this sucks for Deadpool.
Yeah,
so
I think this is the part where we need to get into the plot, because I have opinions about the plot that I think would have made it a stronger movie, and I'm really curious what the writer's room looked like for this movie.
well, and that's the thing. That's where I'm going, is the fact that the first movie,
It was a love story. It was a Valentine's Day love story.
and for those of you that didn't see, the first Deadpool movie, the marketing campaign was a lot of fun because they had a lot of the fun irreverent stuff, but then to lure people to bring their significant other to the movie, they had like a rom-com poster. And it was
Yeah.
like, it's a love story about two people. And it is, and they say it in the movie, but like imagine bringing your friend to the movie and then just being like, what, there's so much blood and gore. What is happening? I thought this was a rom-com.
It's a romantic comedy about how Carrie Elway falls in love with these syringes he needs to eat to get to the key. And this is a Saw reference.
That was the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's basically like the energy of like bringing your friend to the movies to see a rom-com, and it's just Saw.
It's just Deadpool. And for Deadpool 1, two things that I wanted to mention were, one, I will never get over the test footage that came out for that movie.
Was peak viral marketing.
If you want to galvanize an audience to scream at producers to make something, that's how you do it. Because not only was it fun and exciting and a very good like self-contained thing, but it had everything. It was an exactly perfect pilot. And the funniest thing about it is that at the very, very end, you could tell that this was made internally, because at the very, very end, he says, "Hi, Tom." Hi, Tom. Tom was the chairman of the Fox board at the time. And they made that at the end to be a fourth wall break for the chairperson that was going to watch it and approve it or not. He didn't like it. And so it's been assumed that Ryan Reynolds was actually the person that did leak it to kind of get that ball moving. But it worked. It was incredible. It was such a good first movie. And the thing that's also interesting about that, and what I want to bring up when it comes to the writers, is that it's also come out that Ryan Reynolds basically took no money on that movie. He spent his check to get the writers on set to be on set while they were filming.
That's awesome.
Which is the whole point of the writer's strike that we just got out of.
Yeah.
Is that we need the writers to be on set to be able to churn stuff. And this movie was also delayed because of the writer's strike, because they started filming right before the writer's strike, and the writer's strike hit. So they're like, well, we're technically the writers. We can't ad lib right now. If we did, that would be writing, and we can't do that. We're on strike. And then the actor strike hit, and they're like, okay, bye. We'll see you later. So all of this led to the movie as it is now, but they basically had to bring in two people. One of them worked on Bob's Burgers. The other one I forgot, but there was like 5 writers for this movie. So when you think of how many random things come up, that is the Deadpool formula, but it's also a lot of cooks in the kitchen trying to make something work, when I felt like there could have been an easier and more straightforward avenue. But what did happen, like I said, was, in my opinion, not a great movie, but it was fine, and I enjoyed my time a lot.
Like, this is the problem, is I liked Thor Love and Thunder and you did not. And I thought that was a fun movie and you did not. You and your cinema eye.
It's just, no, that's actually frankly a pretty good analog, because there are parts of that movie I really loved, and then on the whole, it could have been better. This one is fine across the board, but in a similar way to No Way Home, where if you rewatch No Way Home, the cameos and the references are the parts that you're going to dwell on and be like, that's fun. But on a second, third, fifth watch, you're like, I already knew what happened.
That's why I'm curious. It's like, what is the scene where Elektra wanders in going to look like on a rewatch?
Exactly.
What are these references to the Honda Odyssey? And that's the other thing. There was a thing I didn't expect about this movie, was there was actually like other things I've consumed that kind of took me out of the movie at times.
Like what?
In Dungeons and Daddies, it's a D&D podcast, very funny. The first season, there's a anthropomorphic car that is a Honda Odyssey called Odyssey-san. So every time they kept bringing up the Honda Odyssey, the fact that they had to take the Honda Odyssey through this magical adventure through this magical land, I couldn't stop thinking about Odyssey-san.
That's crazy. Yeah. Okay, that's really fun.
And then there was also just like these like weird moments where they would say like, woke mob. What was it? They had like the top knot Ryan Reynolds, who's supposed to like, just like he looks normal.
The way that I thought of that character, because they said it was nice pool,
Yeah.
is the fact that I thought that that would be like what a studio would make Deadpool into. Is that is the version of Deadpool that Disney probably wants and would enjoy and would fit in with the entire MCU. And is also just like literally looking at his costume. The costume is just a bunch of plastic plating on whatever.
Yeah.
It's not Deadpool. And so that's kind of where I thought that came from, or was trying to get at, is like, this is the exact safe bet we were never gonna do. With all the stuff that we see with the movie of like, yeah, nice pool, all of these other things, all the other Deadpools, it really did feel like too much was happening at certain points with the jokes. Like, that's what I meant earlier, where it's like there are like 1,000 jokes, 1 in 10 are really good, but they're really good. All the other ones are like, okay. And that's the writing in itself, how it felt. But when it comes to a lot of the references that were happening, I was very, very, very happy in the fact that they did, and it made it very obvious that they did just stick to 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
The moment where in the heroic journey, there's the whole thing of crossing the threshold, where you enter a mysterious land. And I thought that was when they first meet, what's his name from Succession?
TVA. Yeah.
Oh, God.
John
Yeah,
Paradox.
Tom Wamsgans showing up. He was the Tom. He said like, hi, Tom. That was him. It was Tom Wamsgans. I love that actor so much. And it's really funny because he was the dude in Pride and Prejudice.
I've never seen that.
Like opposite Keira Knightley. And so he was that like heartthrob for a while. And then he kind of like did other stuff. I think he did theater and then resurfaced in Succession as the goofiest businessman you've ever seen.
Great.
So now again, I love seeing him as basically the same character again. And that's what I mean. He, when it comes as a metaphor for like taking 20th Century Fox, throwing most of it away and keeping some of it, he felt like the Kevin Feige of it, where he's like, okay, I just need, and maybe probably not Kevin Feige.
I thought he was more like the Bob Iger of the whole thing.
That's holy shit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because he's just I could watch Disney slowly morph over 1,000 years into some other shape that also owns the world. Or I could just start lopping off heads now.
I agree. Wow. Yeah. Bob Iger is a pretty good analog for that.
I know things.
And just that character was so fun, but it really builds that entire idea that like this is literally just a metaphor for what's happening in real life, which of course it is. But for a lot of the characters they brought in for 20th Century Fox, I thought that the actual crossing of the threshold moment was not when they show him that the TVA exists and blah, blah, blah. Hey, you need to go become a hero. Not when he meets Wolverine and brings Wolverine over. It was, in my opinion, when Cap takes off his hood and he flames on. That was the moment that's like, oh, this is 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
That's what this is. That's the only thing we're going to see for the rest of the movie for the most part. So that was the big like, okay, this is the rest of the movie and this is what it's going to be like. And it took a while for the movie to get there. That was my concern with the first act, is how much of it was, okay, well, we'll try these other things. We'll do a couple of references. Deadpool's in a low point. Okay, we'll see. And some of those Wolverine references were a lot of fun. But then once we finally get into it, I was like, oh, this is where this is the track we're on now.
Yeah.
Is Flame On. God, that was so hype. Like,
That was hilarious. Well, the thing is, like, I'm really curious how many people remember
yeah.
that first Fantastic Four movie.
I
Or the
really like
second
those.
Fantastic
Yeah,
Four
yeah.
movie. They were fine. They were good. It's probably, as far as live action Fantastic Fours we've gotten, they were objectively the closest we got to something you could watch in a theater and not be annoyed about it.
But when it comes to things you thought, in my opinion, things I thought would never happen, that was it. That was like, oh, okay, this is the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, I never thought they would bring back Chris Evans to not be Captain America. Like, I literally was like, oh, he called them a dickhead, so I guess he's the Captain America that swears. And then he flames on. I was like, oh, fuck, that's so good. Oh, it was so good. Yeah,
Here's the funny thing.
that was when the movie won me over.
I feel stupid because when that scene happened, I was like, oh, that's a Fantastic Four outfit. I knew that like intrinsically.
Wait,
Like,
did you really?
Yeah. I was like, I don't know what it was about. Like seeing him, I was like, oh, that's him. Maybe he's Reed Richards. You know, because he was famously in the Fantastic Four movie as Johnny Storm. Maybe he's Reed Richards.
No, yeah, I love the idea they kill off Captain America so they can bring back Chris Evans as Reed Richards.
They kept all the references from like literally having a giant destroyed 20th Century Fox logo to say
Yeah.
like, this is literally the like, this is literally the dumpster of where Disney puts all the ideas they don't want to play with anymore.
Yes, yeah.
Like they were not being subtle with the storytelling at all. The subtext was constantly text.
Well, it was just because Loki, the Loki movie, like show,
Yeah.
kind of the void I felt was different. And now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, duh. That's just the ideas they don't work with. So we're going to give them a little bit of screen space here, but we don't need to play with them later. While Multiverse of Madness, they just had another multiverse for that. So like, okay, cool. I guess we'll get John Krasinski to be Mr. Fantastic.
But that's also why the TVA works, is because like it felt like they're saying like this is the kind of synergies they're expecting.
Sure.
You take the TV show. If you didn't do your homework on the TV show, you might not know what's going on. But because you did watch it, you were a good little Marvel fanboy, you came and watched this movie and you're already ahead of the curve. And also, I'm curious if this was a conscious choice in terms of how they save money on like, you don't have to design a whole new CGI everything or CGI language. You just take the thing, like that whole sequence at the end, it like felt unique in terms of like how things are spaghettifying to show the universe is coming undone. But it's also like they perfected it in Loki.
Yeah,
You understand completely what is going on.
And that's one thing that I like about the shows, and what I wish the Marvel Cinematic Universe had more of is that visual language of understanding that like, yes, this is the thing from the TVA, so that happens. Seeing like the sling ring was also another one where you're like, okay, cool, this is an effect that we know from that, to the point where Deadpool is like, oh yeah, Marvel's magic sparkles. Yeah, the world of the Void, I'm gonna be honest, there was a moment for me where I'm like, oh no. The first two Deadpool movies felt like they had a scrappiness about them when it came to the CGI. They knew where to put the budget because they didn't have a huge budget. So it was on Colossus. And then when they'd have an explosion with the car was definitely CGI and it was kind of meh. But like that entire sequence when they're on that overpass in the first movie, like that took days and days and they had to shut down an overpass. I think they actually built an overpass just for that. But long story short, like that was that entire like very specific focused sequence. This movie, I felt a lot of that Marvel like churn out CGI stuff. They knew where to put it because the fight scenes were incredible. They were very well done. During that fight scene where they're in the alleyway and they basically do the fight scene from Old Boy. Literally, it was the hammer scene from Old Boy, where it's just Wolverine and Deadpool moving back and forth on a 2D plane. It was awesome. But like every frame has something happening. It's literally not just blood happen in the background. Every single slice does something. The reason I bring up the CGI being kind of meh is because I don't know if I'm being a dick, but every single time I was looking at the Void, my brain was like turned on from Loki. In the Loki show, the background always had something that was a reference to some other comic book thing that they're never going to do, or it's just a silly thing. It's the stuff that these listicles are made of. This movie didn't really have that.
It had some stuff from like, if you paid attention, I'm pretty sure you see like the Fantastic Four, it's like that space station that they're on, and like a few other things like that are in the background, but it's not.
That's what I mean. It's just not full. And in my mind, I'm like, that's a card you could have made and put in a 3D plane. Like that's not something that you need to spend that much time and effort on. But there was a moment for me that I'm just like, how much did they put on these VFX artists to make everything else look so good that during those calm moments, you're not even meant to look at the background. You're just meant to like follow what's happening.
I guess like, and here's the other.
And that is me
thing.
being nitpicky.
No, that's the thing is like, if you wanted to be a nitpicker in the other direction, you could say that like, all right, this is canonically the TVA after Loki season 2. Okay. So the TVA is not pruning things at the same rate. And so that monster doesn't have as much stuff to eat because it's been eating everything this whole time.
But there is a lot of stuff from the 20th Century Fox you could have put in there, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like if this is meant to just be the 20th Century Fox corner of the Void, I feel like there was a bit more that we could have seen, but that's just me being nitpicky.
Yeah. I got to talk about the Deadpool super fight scene because I know we have a lot of fight scenes up until now. It was great.
Yes.
It was great on two levels. One, it was stupid because we know Deadpool can regenerate. We know that all of the Deadpools can regenerate. And we know Wolverine can regenerate. So what is the point of them fighting?
Exactly. Yeah. There's no way to resolve that with literal violence.
It was literally just a payoff of, are you a Deadpool fanboy, Cameron? You silly little idiot. You stupid little idiot boy. Whoever thought that Ryan Reynolds with big swords in his arms was going to be Deadpool and that's all you're ever going to get. You little idiot. You stupid little child. Well, here you go. Here you go. You got Dogpool, you got Lady Deadpool, you got pretty much the whole Deadpool family situation. It was very fun and silly and cool and well done. And yet also at the same time, the entire time you're watching, you're like, there are no stakes here.
Yeah, that's the cameo part also.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, cool, which Deadpools are they going to bring in from the comics or whatever? Apparently, like, the Welsh audience freaked out for Welsh Deadpool, Welsh Pool. Nathan Fillion. Oh, yeah, by the way, here's a lot of cameos separately in like, these are fun just to know. You're not meant to get them on first watch. Nathan Fillion was Skull Pool or Head Pool, the little head one that was flying around.
That was literally the only Deadpool I didn't know.
Yeah, right?
And I felt stupid.
As well as that was one of the popcorn buckets. That's why seeing it walking in the theater, I was like, what is this popcorn bucket? This looks stupid. And then seeing it in the movie is like, okay, I guess. The female Deadpool, Lady Pool, that's Blake Lively. That
was Blake Lively?
Yes.
Oh, I thought so.
You know what's even better? Baby Pool was one of his children. Kid Deadpool, one of his children. So the two underage Deadpools were his family. That was
I love
Ryan
Baby
Reynolds.
Pool so much.
And that's what I mean about this entire like film and franchise being Ryan Reynolds' baby, and where he can just throw all of his creative juices and his literal family. The one that I really wanted, and this might just be me being again picky, would have been a Nolan North Deadpool from the video game.
Yeah.
Because that was big. Like that was when Deadpool was like kind of burgeoning as like, oh, people really like Deadpool. Let's make a Deadpool game. Game wasn't amazing, but it was a lot of fun. I was actually talking with Jessica about it recently. That was like, I remember when I really enjoyed that. And this is my problem. And I've told you in the audience.
You grew up, and unfortunately, the world is different now.
I'm the age that Deadpool came out and was it was for me. It was exactly what I needed to hear at the end. He was talking about bacon and lol epic random. And I was like, wow, oh my God, how would I ever want anything more? Then the game came out. I was like, this is so awesome. And then the movie came out and I was like, wow, they finally did it. And then the next movie came out and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then this one came out and I'm like, we can stop now, please. And that's why I started this off with like, thank you for coming to the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't care anymore. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think the MCU is ever going to do anything that I'm going to give a remote crap about anymore. Unfortunately, that's where we are.
Yeah, you're Andy and you grew up, and now you're putting the toys aside.
Dropping the toy. I don't want to play with you anymore.
Okay, so you're dropping them off for the other kids to play with, but you just put them in the trash, apparently.
I don't think I'm ever going to give as much passion to this movie that I did to the first Avengers movie. That was a pivotal moment in my life. That was my senior year of high school. I watched, okay, don't judge me. I watched a cam rip of it before it came out because I just couldn't wait. And every one of my friends, this was right before IB exams.
Such pride.
And yeah, and I was just like, no, I need to see this. I have worked so hard for IB exams. I just need to see this and then go see the movie. And then I watched it and ruined it for myself. And then finally went and saw the movie. But like, I can't describe to you how much I wanted to see it, how invested I was in the MCU at the time. And now looking at this movie and seeing all of the stuff that I have always wanted to see on screen happen, there's not much left. I think I'm good. I think we're fine.
We're done with movies. We can put the movies back in the box. We don't need movies anymore.
The moment that I think solidified it was, first of all, seeing all the Deadpools, but also because as soon as they talked about the Deadpool core, I was like, wait, this could have been Deadpool kills the MCU. In my mind, that's what was going to happen.
That's what I originally thought was going to happen with this. Was like, so, honestly, the first time I saw the trailer about Deadpool and Wolverine and that they had all these other characters and stuff, I thought that was basically like somehow Deadpool get wound up at the other end of the MCU where 20th Century Fox is and is fighting his way back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That was the moment that I'm just like, you know what? That's probably the last piece of MCU content or Marvel content that I read. Like I had the comic book and I read it. So now I'm like, it's over. I don't know what's happening next. And I kind of am okay with that. I might go see the movie. I probably will watch the shows, but I don't think I'm going to have as much passion for, oh my God, that's a comic book panel I remember reading and now it's on screen.
I mean, this is the same problem that I feel like a lot of people have with Star Wars, right? It's like, it's not for us anymore.
And I agree. And that's
we
so
unfortunately grew up.
Yeah.
Time is a relentless river that flows in one direction and you are stuck adrift in a paddleless canoe flowing with the current. That is all of existence. And unfortunately, there's no way to get upstream. I'm sorry, the current is just too strong. You got to go with it. It's okay if Star Wars isn't what you wanted it to be anymore. It's not for you. You had your Star Wars and you can still enjoy it.
Yeah.
We had our MCU. We got our Endgame and that was it. Yeah. And we're done.
I'm a dunk on the Acolyte still,
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean that
we'll make fun of things,
Yeah.
but it's okay for us not to get a big head about it. Other people are allowed to enjoy things. Like, that's the other thing. I feel weird about saying this because it's like, yeah, he's in a suit. He's got to be whatever. The CGI, especially on the Wolverine suit for some reason, but also the Deadpool suit during that ending fight scene was like extremely Marvel CGI. There's something about it was visibly different from like the previous two movies.
That's what I'm getting at with why the movie, I said the movie kind of like got me, and I was actually in the movie when Flame On happened, but the part where the movie lost me was literally the very first scene, where Logan is not only one of my favorite like comic book movies of ever, but like one of my favorite movies. I think it's incredibly well done, and it's very good on its own merits. If you don't know what the X-Men are, but you've kind of seen the trailers, you'll get it. Like, there's very little you need to understand, but it's great. Logan happens in like 50 years or whatever. So why is Deadpool currently there? That's now Deadpool is at Logan's grave.
Wait, that's the continuity you're worried about?
No. That's number one. Literally, James Mangold, the director of that movie, was brought on to talk about it because they're like, we want to make sure that this won't interfere with Logan. And so he's like, okay, cool. Well, here's how you do it. And Ryan Reynolds said that there was not going to be a time anything because he wanted to make sure that it would work with the first movie. He literally digs up the corpse of Wolverine, which is not a subtle lampshade. Yes, they are digging up the corpse of Wolverine to have him in the movie. But that like hurt me watching that I'm like, I love this. I loved Logan. I loved the end of it. I thought it was such a good send off to Logan. Now you have Deadpool in a new costume that looks very Marvel. The original costume was like nice and gritty and gross and grimy, but we hadn't seen him suit up into the new costume. So I was like, what the fuck happened to the old costume?
Well, that was the joke, is literally he gets a new costume.
No, I know, but we don't know that yet. It was a flash forward. So I was like, what is going on? And why is he like, what the fuck? This would have been fine if it felt like this was a continuation of that other stuff. Why is it so different? And then he digs up the corpse of Wolverine on the volume, the LED volume. I could fucking see it in IMAX, and I was so mad. I literally was looking at it. I was like,
gotta
you
get a
took
graphic
fucking,
for this. Keon's volume tirades.
It's fine. I think the volume is probably one of the coolest pieces of technology out there.
No,
but when I can fucking tell, and there's literally, you can see the edge of it from the snow, I'm like, bro, literally film this on a fucking 50 millimeter and I'll probably not notice. Like like I just watching it was like, there was an incredulous look on my face up until the Flame On moment.
I literally think Ryan Reynolds was not in any of those shots. I think they literally just had a dude in a suit, especially because they had to do all the choreography for the bye. There's a lot of stuff going on there that was like, this almost felt like either an afterthought. It was divorced from what was going on around it.
Yeah, and the thing that I just feel really torn about is that it was good. Like, that was all funny, and it's all like, it fit the movie. Him killing people with an adamantium skull, like skeleton of Wolverine, is fucking hilarious. It's great.
It was so good. And then he does a little claw thing, and then he's like, awesome. Wow, this is a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah. I think, frankly, that was awesome. But there was a part of me that was like, this looks uncanny to me, and I don't know why. And it was the suit, and it was the fact that, like, yeah, it seemed like we've entered a new era of filmmaking that is so divorced from the first Deadpool movie, but like, get over it. And that's kind of where my brain was like, I was like, I need to turn that off. This is not the first two Deadpool movies. They already know it. That's the whole point of the movie. But like, seeing it there was like a weird reckoning for my brain to deal with.
Two things that really, they're connected, that really didn't make any sense to me are, one, Deadpool has like basically learned the same lesson for 3 movies now. Like, he's always like, I can't trust those around me, and no one will ever accept me. I have a girlfriend now, but I can't trust those around me. No one will accept me. I have a family now, but I can't trust those around me. No one will accept me. And then the second thing is that Vanessa, in the last movie, they wanted to have a kid.
Yeah.
They're very adamant about it. In the comics, Deadpool's kid is a pretty significant plot point for him. Like, so much happens in their relationship off screen.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
He's not with Vanessa anymore. It's not clear to me if that was like I don't want to be a hitman anymore. Like, they don't really set that up. Or if it's just like, I'm trying to find a new purpose. that doesn't involve something or other? Because it sounded like he was completely fine with killing people. Why did he stop being a hitman?
But that's what I mean about like them incorporating him into the MCU is one of the first scenes is him talking to Happy Hogan, again, Jon Favreau, who is now a huge part of the Disney machine. Him talking to Happy Hogan and saying like, I want to be an Avenger. I want to be part of something bigger than me. Is like, you kind of already are. You're part of the X-Men and the X-Force. Like, what are we doing? And it's very obvious that that was just a part of the writing that they needed to make him want to do to be part of this mission that he wants to go do something significant because his significant other also wants him to do that and he wants her to believe in him.
And that's the other thing is like they don't, because they Chekhov's gun, God, I can't remember Charles's sister.
Oh, Cassandra Nova.
I can't believe we haven't talked about her yet because that was such a good
we're getting to it.
reference.
Yeah.
But like she goes in his head and you see the like scene where they were talking to each other and then all of a sudden like Cassandra takes over and makes it seem like Vanessa was like way meaner to him than she actually was. I thought we were going to get like some sort of payoff. Like they obviously still love each other and she doesn't want to be with anyone else. Like even the part where it's like she's kind of seeing someone else, like all of these little beats kept being weird because it feels so disconnected from the first two in terms of the story. In the comics, Deadpool is like a pendulum. He's constantly swinging from wanting to like live up to this idea of his heroes to being a constantly sarcastic nihilist who's killing everyone. Yeah. And so
which the second movie nailed.
And the thing is like across every like run is basically him jumping on different ends of that pendulum. So the fact that like he's kind of learning the same lesson over and over again was fine by me. I really thought they were just gonna like put that in the background and bring Wolverine stuff more forward instead of trying to pretend like he also has something going on. Because like I really thought this Deadpool movie was going to have more of a Deadpool doesn't need to change, but Wolverine needs to. And like they did that. They did it pretty good.
Exactly. Like I thought that this would be way more about Wolverine and way more about what he had going on. But I'm gonna be real with you. If these motherfuckers had seen Logan, they would know that this Logan that they pick up, that's the worst one, is almost the same character as that Logan. That Logan had a bunch of X-Men that he loved very much. They all fucking died because of Professor Xavier, but like now he's a shell of a man just wanting to take care of his last friend before they die and then probably just fade off into dust. That's like one level above the other Logan. And the other Logan, when they like, it just felt like there was a weird padding over all of the rough stuff that could have happened in this movie. Because I thought that he was just straight up a maniac, or something happened where he became one of the Four Horsemen, which does happen. And then he like literally did a genocide. But like him going on a rampage and killing a bunch of people, trying to avenge the X-Men. But like
the beauty of it is he fails the first time because he wasn't there for his friends. He literally like turned away from them. And he failed the second time because in his grief, Charles's entire life is building up this image that mutants and humans can get along. And he has fundamentally made it very clear to humanity that mutants will never want to get along with humans because he's completely destroyed any goodwill that Charles spent his life creating. And that's why he feels like the worst Wolverine. And like they do that all off screen, which is the craziest part.
They don't even show any of it, like at all. Except for when he deliberately like tries to say it to X-23. Laura. It's all okay, but that's my problem is that in this movie, as a movie, not a great movie, it's all serviceable. But like when you think of these characters outside of this one property, you're like, I saw the other movies. What are we doing? That's how it felt for me. Now that we talked about Logan, I think that we should get into Wolverine. Before we get into, there's a lot of other stuff I want to talk about with the X-Men universe that they tackle in The Void. Now for Wolverine, they show up, start looking for a Wolverine that could replace the Wolverine that has died in whatever that world is. I think it's like 10005 or something like that. Now, the thing that's hilarious about that for me is not the fact that it happened and you got to see it, which apparently was very funny, but was the fact that they do all of the stuff where they catch up to him using Wolverine's dead corpse to kill people. And so I was like, wow. Well, unfortunately, I drank too much soda before I came into this movie, so I need to pee. So they're right now recapping the catch-up. I'm gonna go run to the bathroom really quick. I try to sprint out the theater. I stepped on someone's foot. I feel really bad about it. Then I go to the bathroom. And then I get back in the middle of a montage where they are finding all of the Wolverines that he could bring on. And I feel like that might have been the part that would have won the movie over for me if I was there to see it. And then I feel so bad because Jessica, of course, doesn't have encyclopedic knowledge of all these things like I do. So when I sat back down, she was like, oh, he's going through universes to do this. I'm like, yeah, but man, I wish I saw any of the things that happened. Like there's nothing that I would have known that happened unless I looked it up. Each one of them, of course, was a reference. One of them was Patches, I think, who has the eye patch.
Yeah.
Another one was from a Hulk comic. I'm trying to remember which one, but it was from Incredible Hulk. I think it was 340. Another one was Henry Cavill as Wolverine. And I feel like that was also probably the Cavalrine.
Isn't that what he calls him?
I think so. Something like that. And I love that he brings up also the lampshades. The fact is like, you shouldn't hang out with those people down the street. We'll treat you real good if you come hang out with us at the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Very good. But also the beginning of hey, we're going to bring in actors that should have played some of these roles and we really wanted them to, but they're not going to. We also see comic height accurate Wolverine, which has always been a big weird part of Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine.
He's a little gremlin.
Yeah, no, and that's why he's not the leader of the X-Men, because he's not meant to be. It's kind of like Iron Man with Captain America.
Yeah.
Captain America is the Boy Scout that we need to like America's way, and Iron Man's the dickhead that just does whatever he wants. Wolverine's the dickhead that does whatever he wants, and Scott Summers is the stupidest freaking Boy Scout you've ever seen.
And also Jean Grey does not love short kings, and that is why she continues to stop. She's honestly, in my opinion, the worst X-Men, followed by Scott.
I mean, well, the best powers, most kind of annoying.
Magneto somehow has better powers than her, even when she is the freaking Dark Phoenix. Don't get me started on X-Men cartoons and comics. But
go watch X-Men 97. God, that was really good. I enjoyed that a lot. We see finally comic accurate height Wolverine, which is the fact that like once you get Hugh Jackman wasn't really a known entity when he started X-Men. Immediately they're like, oh, this is a leading man. Okay, cool. We'll have him be the leading man of the entire X-Men series. And that's basically just kind of what happened.
That was kind of the other funny thing about this movie was you were bringing back a bunch of actors who are now very big.
Yeah.
Like overlooking like the main actors. You have a bunch of side characters. Like imagine Channing Tatum when he would have played Gambit would not have been remotely as famous as he is now. Pretty much every tertiary character you could think of, they had to shell out money to get them on screen.
I also find it really funny that Ray Park comes back as Toad. Yeah. Where it's just like, Darth Maul, what are you doing here?
And then you got Wesley Snipes, who ironically, he probably was just looking for a down payment on like his car.
Yeah. And then Elektra, who I'm trying to remember the actress's name, but she's also very successful. But you know who didn't show back up, which I think was one of the few. I think they're called Lady Deathstrike, which was the ones with the claws for fingers in X-Men 2.
Did they literally say they tried to get her or something?
No, she came back. Sorry, no, she came back. So did someone called Calypso. Literally every character you see on screen is the same, except Juggernaut. Juggernaut is the only person. Juggernaut's the only person that didn't come back. And when asked why, it was, first of all, budget things. I don't think they were prepared to pay him very well. But two, he said that he would never get back in that costume because apparently like that whole headpiece was such a nightmare to put on. I assume technology's improved over the past 20 years on a better one, but it was really funny seeing like a dude who, some other guy that plays Juggernaut in the movie, like thinking, why didn't they get him back? And then the reason is like, I wasn't going to get back in that suit again. Screw that. To the best of my understanding, every other actor, X-23, Laura, she came back and she apparently dropped her phone in the bath when she heard that she was coming back. She was so excited, which is really
fantastic.
Cute. Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. Like this was in a way, in the same way that you have your Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man getting their send-off. This was like there was a lot of good talent and a lot of comic movies that people loved that just ended because the studio was like, we're not dealing with that.
And it was good to see all of that kind of get its due, especially, of course, lampshading it as always, Elektra and Blade and Channing Tatum all saying like, let's get our ride into the sunset. Let's get our final send off. We deserve it. We put in the hours. Also Elektra saying like, oh man, I'm so sorry about your Deadpool. And she's like, it's fine. Who cares? Like he's dead. That's fine. Ben Affleck's doing his own stuff.
Yeah.
Hearing Blade say some motherfuckers are still trying to ice skate uphill. That was the one moment. As soon as I saw Blade, I'm like, if he doesn't say that, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be mad. It's not a copywritten phrase. He made it up for the thing. I don't know where it came from, but he better say it. And yeah, seeing all of those actors come back, I feel like they probably had a really good time. Hopefully, fingers crossed, who knows? And that's why I feel like Cassandra Nova as a character, I didn't expect to see here because I was like, I know that Xavier has a like evil twin, but like, I don't remember why. And when I looked it up, like apparently in the comics, in the womb,
They say it in the movie.
No, but like Xavier kills her in the womb.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like what the hell? And so she exits as a psychic spirit and then embodies someone else.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't even know they kind of mentioned that in the movie. I was like,
the whole
what
joke
is
of that she's there is that like it's implied that she killed her Xavier. She did strangle him in the womb.
Well, she does come up in the comics. Like she does show up. She commands like an army of sentinels. She takes over Genosha. But like, yeah, what the hell? And for them to do her powers in such a way was rad. Like her playing around with Tom Wamsgann's brain was like the most disgusting, but also super well done scenes of the movie. There's also been critique of like, okay, she kind of shows up and she's the queen of the wastes, whatever, and then lets them go and then realizes, oh, I could take over the entire multiverse. People were just like, oh, well, that's kind of an annoying motivation, but I think it worked out. Like it is one of those parts of like, it's fine, it works out. But for her to be an intimidating villain was immediately disturbing and horrible and awful and very well done. And also to button on that, I think her name is it's Emma Corrin, I think is the name of the actress. And that even since she knew she would be in an MCU movie, she's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna hire a trainer, I'm gonna get really ripped. And they're like, don't. we don't need you to. You're gonna be in a trench coat the whole time. You're fine. But apparently that was a conversation they need to have. Is she's like, I'm gonna get so ripped. And they're like, please don't. Now, unfortunately, Hugh Jackman is never going to be able to leave this.
Yes.
Because as soon as Deadpool told him, he's just like, they're going to have you till you're 90. I'm like, yeah, they are. Because spoilers again, they survive at the very end. He gets his shirt blown off and is super ripped. They work it out. They had two cool regenerative people, so it's fine. They get through it. But funny enough, this is a bit of trivia. Hugh Jackman came on, of course, to do Wolverine, which was so nice to see. I love him very much, especially seeing him act more seriously. I missed that from him. Actually, his costume changes kind of put a figurine company in a lot of turmoil. I think they're called SH Figure Art or something like that. I don't know
anything about this.
Well, it's just funny because the entire internet was just piecing together all of these leaked footage stuff. So there was one where you see the giant 20th Century Fox thing like kind of in the ground. And it was them fighting Sabretooth, same actor, and Toad. During that sequence, he was wearing the full outfit. He had his arms covered. But in the trailer, he has his arms showing, which was CGI. Corridor Crew had like pixel peeped and everything, and they saw that the trailers were CGI'd. If you watch the movie, he does have his sleeves over. And so figurine companies had already started making versions of him with his sleeves off. That's not actually what happened. Then later on, he gets his sleeves off. But when he gets his sleeves off, he has his cowl on. And then later on, he has his shirt off, but he has the cowl on. So there's like him having his sleeves off, his shirt off, his cowl on, all have like thrown the entire internet in a tizzy of like, wait, what were the costumes for this movie? What fucking happened? But the reason why in the trailer they give him, like they have his arms off and they had to CG his arms off is because they actually did cover his arms for the first beginning of the filming because he had like melanoma or he was getting treated for skin cancer. They didn't want to show it.
Damn.
It's kind of sad, but I'm glad he got it treated. But that is actually the reason why he didn't start off with the actual Wolverine outfit.
There's so much lore there.
It's odd to be here at the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at least for me. And I'm very glad that they kept in that speech about, hey, I think we should stop doing the multiverse. Can we stop? I'm over it. I think that, and especially that they're just like, welcome to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You're hearing a little bit of a lull. They've just thrown so much at the wall that they're like, can we just get back to the sacred timeline? I think we're over this. And this was the movie to end that. It definitely was the big cap on like, if we're going to bring people back into this thing and we're going to have cameos from other cinematic universes or other timelines, let's do it with a cinematic universe that actually happened. No Way Home was for the Sony Cinematic Universe. Now we have it for the 20th Century Fox. I'm going to share a story from Reddit really quick that like nearly made me cry.
Oh.
That, yeah, during the big thread, I think I'll link it in the description, that there was a giant thread about Deadpool and Wolverine, and a guy recounted the fact that he had a friend that was so into XMen, and he loved all of the XMen movie. And of course, he tragically passed away. And so when he passed away, he kept playing the Good Riddance song from Green Day to like remember his friend. So he was like, as soon as I saw that like in memoriam thing of like the 20th Century Fox universe, and they were playing Good Riddance, he was like, oh man, that hit me really hard. I'm like, this is, oh my God, that's so sad. But it was really touching. It was a touching thing. And I feel like that was probably the most gravitas you can give to that montage is that watching it back, being like, yeah, I have a lot of incredibly good memories with this over a decade or maybe a decade's worth of content. I remember seeing X-Men First Class and being like, that was probably one of the best comic book movies I had ever seen at the time. And thinking like, that's exactly what I wanted from an X-Men movie. The entire time that all those movies kept showing on the FX channel, and you would just tune in, you'd be like, oh my God, this is fun, this is enjoyable. And now seeing them all have their swan song and going away was a really beautiful button on it. And seeing Ian McKellen as Magneto again.
Seeing all those little like vignettes of behind the scenes moments from like movies that you remember the target audience for them and being like, it sure was something.
Yeah. And especially seeing Hugh Jackman before his enormous muscles. That's the thing that I found really funny rewatching the first X-Men, is that I remember as a kid being like, oh my God, he's so muscular. Like, how do big movie stars get like that? And then looking back at it now, you're like, he's kind of like ripped, I guess.
Yeah, you
like,
have more muscle mass than he did.
Yeah, no, it's so funny looking back
and
being like,
see this guy in the gym. It's disgusting.
It's funny looking back and realizing how much things have changed, not only in our lives, but in Hollywood. On that note, I think y'all will have an incredibly good time with the Deadpool and Wolverine movie. I think they made all of the right decisions.
Yeah, I still want to know why they did that thing with Vanessa, because I really think just if they just given him the family and not made it that and just made it about him finally having a family and not wanting to lose it, that would have been a much better story in terms of the fact that you are now here to kill off an entire timeline. You only want to keep the one thing, and how that divorces it from everything that made it great.
Yeah.
And the idea that he has to save his family being a literal metaphor for like, you can't just throw away everything that came before because that's the only reason it was able to happen. That's the same thing they bring up with Wolverine. It's like, can you help him save his timeline? There's nothing to save. If those things hadn't happened, you wouldn't be Wolverine. You wouldn't be here. That's literally them just yelling the entire point of the movie in your face at the very end.
And I agree.
I have one thing to add. Comics have existed for so long, like almost over a century now.
Yeah.
And they changed constantly with new writers. And so the characters you like now, like Superman and Deadpool and all these other characters, their current power sets and everything that works about their characters are the product of countless other writers and creators and artists trying something new, seeing that they didn't like that Superman jumps, maybe he flies. Let other directors and other writers take a shot at Deadpool. If there was like a part of like the implied message of this movie that I didn't jive with, it's that the MCU is coming to say, this is it. This is, we have bought all the IPs and now we get to decide by ourselves what this is supposed to be, even though all those IPs only were successful because of countless hands in the pie.
Yeah.
And I really, really hope that Marvel finds a way to let people try and mess up and actually do things. And I don't mean in the way that they have producers put 60 hands on the pie because they want to market it as, like, let one person with one vision make the movie. That's why Deadpool worked.
I think that they've kind of hit a good stride with that when it comes to like Batman. Batman's had so many different incarnations, but all of them are good in their own ways. And it's funny that you mentioned the kind of longevity of it, because this apparently coincides with the 50th year that Wolverine has been in anything. Wolverine was made 50 years ago in the comics. So this is the 50th anniversary, but it's also the 15th year that Ryan Reynolds has played Deadpool. Deadpool came out in XMen Origins Wolverine in 2009. So a lot of these things have come out of like a terrible situation sometimes. Especially, I love that part in the ending credits where they show Ryan Reynolds being like, yeah, I really like the character. I think that he's really interesting. And as it kept going, he did find so much connection with him. And that it has turned into Ryan Reynolds Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds Deadpool is different from the comic book Deadpool. And that's a good thing. And it's fun. It's great to watch. But I do agree that we're going to get to a point where I feel like either the entire MCU is going to get rebooted or something's going to happen and we're going to have a far more cohesive way that all of these things are going to come into play. And I look forward to seeing that.
This is the way I feel like a lot of people want to think about like the next stage of whatever media is going to be. Overlooking the fact that just money ruins every piece of art it touches. I like to think that MCU or whatever, the one that I got, it was nice. I enjoyed it. And one day my kid's going to grow up. He's going to start watching these movies.
Yeah.
He's going to have his turn to fall in love with get excited for and eventually fall out of love with these stories. And it'll happen to his kid. And hopefully every single time the stories will change and get a little better, or at least be a little different.
That happened with us with Star Wars with our parents.
Yeah. Now what's going on?